All right, let's dig into today's program. So this is our first sales meeting, January 2023, always on the second Wednesday of the month at 11 o'clock. It's only 1 hour long. Then we have a 1 hour break followed by our how to build a $10 million business program. So after today's meeting, make sure you go grab something for lunch and join us back here at 1 o'clock for our how to build a $10 million business. Today we have as our guest Dan O'Connell, who closed out this year, his team doing just over $90 million in business. So should be an exciting interview for everyone. As always, I like to remind everybody that knowledge is not power, execution is power. So since you're taking the time to be with us today, make sure that you write down, take some notes. We don't want you to spend any time in classes or sales meetings without taking something and executing in your business. So as you watch today's program, try to find the 1 or 2 things that you're going to work on 2023. Write it down and then go execute and join us again next month. First, we want to just say welcome to several new agents that have joined. Peter and Dan out of Melrose, Chess out of Wellington, Florida, Dawn, Salem, New Hampshire, Ambish in Burlington, Robin Foley in Northborough. Welcome to all of our new agents. And let's talk about our closings for December. We closed out December with 242 closings at $106 million in sales. If any of you have noticed that it's been a little slow at the start of the year getting checks, the reason for that is because oftentimes we can do checks early. So you guys get your check requests in early and we can do your checks early, get them out to you. But we don't have that ability at the end of a year because we need all of your closings that closed and were paid in December to reflect on last year's 1099 and all the ones that closed out checks received this year on this year's 1099. So January is the only month where we can't really do checks early. We have to wait till January so the dates on the checks all match up for your 1099s. So the result of that is it causes a little backlog just for the first week to 10 days in our bookkeeping department. So with that, we closed 242 closings for the month of December. That's $106 million. That's 185 units for our Massachusetts-based offices. Again, I always like to just point out that this is based on production for agents who are located in Massachusetts offices. Doesn't mean that all that business was just Massachusetts business. It could have been New Hampshire, Connecticut, Rhode Island, but our Massachusetts-based agents did 185 units at 87 million. Our Florida, actually, I think those numbers are reversed. Our Florida agents did 42 units at 13 million. Oh, now it's changing as we speak. And then 5 million completed by our New Hampshire agents. Let's take a look at our top agents for the month of December. By the way, all of this was published this morning on our Career Den. You would have received an email notification of our top 25 list on our Career Den. And as a note, if you're a top 25 agent, you can download some great shareable images right from that Career Den post. So you would have received an email this morning. You click on it. It brings you to the article within the Career Den. At the bottom of that article, you'll find social media images for the top 25 list, as well as the production lists for top teams, top individuals, etc. So let's start with our top 5 Massachusetts teams by volume. Dan O'Connell and Associates from Dracut, Silver Key Homes, Tingsboro, the Results Group, Tewksbury, Button and Co. in Burlington, and Rogers Mello team in Chelmsford. Let's look at top 5 individual agents by volume. This is Gary Trouville, number 1, Monica Rahman, 2, Paul Brulette, 3, Olivia Paris, 4, and Matt Winterly, 5. Next, we have our Massachusetts top 5 teams by the number of units sold. We have number 1, Dan O'Connell and Associates, number 2, Silver Key Homes, number 3, the Results Group, number 4, Rogers Mello team, and number 5, Page and Company out of Tingsboro. Top 5 individuals by units sold for Massachusetts offices. We have Gary Trouville, Dracut, Mass. Corey Gracie, Ashburnham, Mass. 3, Linda Lee, Athol, Mass. Number 4, Jim Serino in Chelmsford, and number 5, Olivia in Athol. Let's take a look at New Hampshire numbers. So New Hampshire this is top 5 agents and teams by volume and by units. Just happens that the numbers match no matter which way we track them this month. Number 1, Platinum Realty Group. Number 2, the Fulford Group. Number 3, Pro Homes Group. Number 4, Marie White. And number 5, Jesse Jean. So congratulations to our New Hampshire-based agents. And then let's take a look at our Florida team. So we are looking at agents and teams for December of 2022 by volume close. Number 1, congratulations to Chris Infante. Number 2, we have Gaston and B. 3, Christine Davis. 4, Jeanette. 5, Morales team. 6, John Slavon. 7, Lambert team. 8, Ashley Olet. 9, Jana Zaidspinner, and 10, Team Batro. Congratulations on our top agents in Florida by volume. And then let's look at the same numbers by unit sold. We have the Morales team comes in number 1, followed by Gaston and B, Christine Davis, Jeanette, John Slavon, Ashley, Team Batro, Joe Kudnick, Laura Rojas, and number 10, Chris Infante. So congratulations to all of our top producing agents for the month of December. We also have published here the top 25 lists. So all of these are turned into images for you, and you can download them right from the LAER Career Den and use them in your social media. Next, we wanted to do a shout out, a congratulations to Kim and Dan O'Connell on the sale of on the last day of December, a $5.2 million sale in New Hampshire. What was really exciting, we announced last month that in November, we had a $12 million sale by Rob McKeon out of our Florida, our Wellington, Florida office. And it was exciting to have such a big sale for the end of the year, especially in a market that seems to be shifting a little bit. And then we had another high-end sale by Kim and Dan at right on the last day, the last business day of the year, for $5.2 million in Center Harbor, New Hampshire. So congratulations to Kim and Dan. Let's look at just our overall volume and closings for the year end. So interestingly, we by a slight hair closed a little bit more in 2022 than we did in 2021. Most companies will come in slightly less in 2022 than they did in 2021. We closed $1.585 billion in business at 3,422 sides. It is possible that number can shift just a little bit because we're still closing out some of the transactions for December, waiting for checks to come in, but pretty close to 1.6 billion in volume. But it's really important to while we're very excited about the fact that we came in slightly higher for our volume and sales for the year, we also have a lot more agents in 2022 than we do in 2021. So it just goes to show that as we move into 2023, all of us are going to have to work harder to do the same amount of business as we did in the previous year. So that's going to be true as we move forward into the coming quarters and coming months. All of us will have to just put our nose to the grindstone a little more so that we do the same exact amount of business as we did in the previous year. Now, the good news is we're already seeing an attrition of real estate agents. That means there's a lot of real estate agents already getting out of the business, which is typical, by the way, this time of year. As realtor dues become available, agents do opt out of the business. This is a great opportunity for you guys because many of you who plan on staying in the business for long term, there's opportunity to work with those agents, the retiring agents or the ones that realize that this is not the business for them, to work out referral programs with those agents who are getting out of the business. So while we're going to have to work harder in the coming year, the good news is there may be slightly less competition, less real estate agents to compete against in our businesses. Let's see. By the way, I'm not going to go through this whole list again on the changing market, but the other email you will receive this morning, we're putting together all the numbers for the entire year. So 2022, who are the highest performing agents for 2022 by volume, by unit sold. So one of the emails that you will have received this morning from the LAER Career Den is the top 50 team and agent list company-wide for the entire 2022. So we still are in the process of breaking those down into smaller groups, like the top 20 for Massachusetts by volume and by units and by team and by individual agents. Same with Florida, same with New Hampshire. So we're going to keep kind of paring down those lists. But if you're curious where you fall, if you made it into the top 50, then you can go on to our LAER Career Den and you'll see a second article that was published today of the top 50 agents, but that's for the entire year. I do want to point out all of the numbers that we report are based on our closings. So this is just based on what we've closed out of our accounting software. The reason that's important is because many of you joined mid-year. So your year-to-date numbers that we have are going to look very different. I do like to point out that in the coming 3 to 4 months, we're going to be planning our award programs. For award programs, we put out a list of what the volume and unit counts are for our different award categories. So, and we'll send out a list of who falls under which category. If you joined LAER mid-year or late year, we're happy to include numbers that close from another brokerage for receiving an award. And we'll send reminders out on that as we send out our lists. But the list that you're seeing on the LAER Career Den, if you're looking at it and you say, hey, wait a minute, that's not accurate, I did much more business than that, then chances are that discrepancy is based on the fact that you joined somewhere mid-year. So let's see. I'm not going to go through the changing market. Hopefully you guys have all by now memorized your dialogues for how to talk to consumers about what's happening in the market. I am going to be showing you in just a few minutes a new program that we're working on, and we might end up touching base on that. The market speak that you need to have in this market in just a few minutes. So some office updates. Craig couldn't be on with us today. I sent a link over. He wanted to have Michelle, the happy agent host in our Melrose office, has been doing all kinds of initiatives within the Melrose office for sustainability. So we'll invite her on to come next month to talk about some of those initiatives. As a reminder, we did put out a challenge to everybody for the end of last year, a green challenge to head over to the National Association of Realtors website and take their free class called Intro to Sustainability and Resiliency. If you did take that class, make sure you go to laerrealty.com/world changer, because we have some special green t-shirts that we have for all of the agents that took that class. We're going to put our order in for those shirts tomorrow. So if you took the class, it basically takes about 1 hour to take the class. If you take the class either today or you've already taken it, go to laerrealty.com/world changer so that you can get your free LAER t-shirt. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing for just 1 minute to show you. We're going to spend the next 20 minutes or so just talking about a big initiative that we've been working on through the end of last year and moving into the beginning of this year in order to better help our agents grow and thrive in this marketplace. So let me just stop sharing for a sec. So many of you probably noted that at the end of last year, we held 2 big mastermind groups for our highest performing real estate agents at LAER. So typically these were agents doing anywhere between $10 and $90 million in business. So we put together 2 different mastermind groups to bring those agents together to learn and grow, find out best practices, etc. And I had the privilege of sitting in and moderating both of those mastermind groups. And what was interesting about it is through our LAER Leadership Council. So many of you know we have a LAER Leadership Council, which is kind of like a board of directors. It's a group of agents that meets once a month, and they help promote change throughout our company. By the way, that's what all of our great committees do: our safety committee, our tech committee, our sustainability committee. So if you like having a voice within the company, I highly recommend that you join one of our committees. Anyways, one of the things we had been working on through our leadership council was we wanted to create a business planning program for agents. And I did, at last month's meeting, we created a program for evaluating your business by really looking at where you are now and what changes you need to make. But it really didn't offer a tool for steps to take on a regular basis to grow your business. So through the Leadership Council, we had been working on this 90-day success plan where agents could come in and launch their business in 90 days. And the goal of that program was to help them close their first 6 transactions with LAER. And as we came to the end of creating that program, it became apparent that that was not necessarily setting people up for success. It set them up for success for 90 days, but it really didn't offer a blueprint moving forward for their business. So we then, we basically scrapped our 90-day success plan to create something better. And what we created is based on those mastermind meetings that took place at the end of last year. What became very apparent from sitting with and moderating panels of very high performing agents what became super apparent is that there is an algorithm to success in real estate. What that means is that if you do certain things on a weekly basis, a monthly basis, a per transaction basis, if you do certain things on these timelines or transactionally, then there's no way that you won't close a certain amount of business. So we then went back to some of those high performing agents and reevaluated what exactly are they doing in their business, and what is it that almost all of the high performing agents are doing to help them close sometimes hundreds, close to 200 transactions a year. And we created this system. It's called the LAER Yearly Real Estate Planning Business Planning System. So let me give you, this is not 100% done, but it's about 90% done. We're going to launch it officially the first week of February and do some classes around it. But basically, success algorithm in general is that if you put certain input into something, then you will get a certain output. And there's algorithms in all things in life, from when we're on social media, what kind of stuff we see, what kind of advertising we get. There's algorithms built in, because on social media, they know that we buy certain things. So for all of us, our experience is different. Well, with real estate, there is an algorithm, meaning that if you do these certain things on a weekly, monthly, yearly, and per transaction basis, that you're going to end up closing a certain amount of business as long as you stick to the system. So the system is divided up into 4 parts. And again, we'll do classes around it for anybody that's interested in utilizing the program. But we feel for agents that stick to the program, you should close 30 transactions a year. 30 transactions is a lot of business. So that's a pretty bold statement to make. Most business planning programs never make any type of bold claim as to how many transactions somebody will close. But most business planning systems don't give you a checklist for what needs to be done yearly, monthly, weekly, and per transaction in order to be successful. So the second piece is this algorithm, we feel, will help you close 30 transactions in a year if you stick to the algorithm, which is not always easy. We're human beings, and human beings tend to try to change things. And if you change something on this program, you're no longer working under the algorithm that we created by studying high-performing real estate agents. That's not to say it won't work. It's just saying we don't know if it'll work, because we know that this algorithm works because we see it in high-performing real estate agents. So algorithm is a finite sequence of rigorous instructions typically used to solve a class of specific problems. What is a success algorithm? Well, there's an algorithm for success when it comes to building real estate business. If certain procedures and steps are performed on a yearly, monthly, weekly, and transactional basis, success is guaranteed. Agents that wish to increase results simply need to increase the steps taken, thereby increasing results. So again, this is just by studying high-performing real estate agents. So what is LAER? That's what we named the system. It's LAER because if you complete 100% of the steps of the LAER system, you can expect to close 30 plus real estate transactions a year, and perhaps even more. Most real estate agents may not complete every single item on these checklists, and that's totally fine. There are many people that really have no interest in closing 30 transactions a year. But we know if you do everything on the system, you will close 30 transactions a year. If you do less, then maybe you close 10 or 20. But winning is whatever you decide winning looks like. So winning does not have to be 30 transactions a year. You decide what winning looks like, and then you make this algorithm work for you. So one of the things you'll note on this program, it's all about system checklists. It's like you got to stick to the checklist, or if you don't stick to the checklist, you're not going to have the result you're looking for. The most important checklist of them all is the yearly checklist. So once a year, there's a checklist of 12 items that you must do. If you don't do all of them, then it's going to impact your success on all the other subsequent checklists. I'll show you more on that in a minute. And what's really important to note is there is no daily checklist. There's no daily checklist because daily is when all the work gets done. So there's a weekly checklist of 9 things that need to be done on a weekly basis. You schedule them. Each day is when the work gets done. That means meeting customers, attending home inspections, doing open houses. And in between that work, you have to schedule in these steps, your weekly steps and your monthly steps. So there is no daily steps that you must take because you're going to schedule your weekly and your monthly steps during those days. The reason why this system works is that if you look at high performing real estate agents, they don't do 1 million things really well. They do a very confined number of things really well. And because they just stick to a system and do those things really well, then they repeat it day in and day out. Because they repeat it and because they're consistent, they end up creating the results for their business. So that's what the system creates for any agent that wants to close a lot of business. It creates repetition and consistency. You will also see that this is not all about business. Through the checklist system, it does have you schedule in time for personal events and vacation and going to the gym. Because if you look at high performing real estate agents, interestingly, most of the high performing real estate agents, that is $10 million a year in business or higher, which is gross commissions of around $250,000 and higher. If you look at high performing real estate agents, most of them take more vacation than the agents that say they're too busy to take vacation and who are not performing at a high level. So we felt that those events, those personal things, the vacations, the gyms, like taking care of yourself, were as important as all the other things on the checklist. And the reason for that is those things prevent burnout and they make you excited to come back to work. They help you rest. And during that rest time, you might come up with new ideas for your business. And then you'll also see that gratitude is built into the success system. I'm going to show you guys the checklist in a few minutes. And then in early February, you can get the system and take the class with us if you're interested in trying the system. But gratitude is built into the checklist because to be a high performing real estate agent, all of us as human beings create and attract energy. We are energy. Anything living, even non-living things, they're all living too. But everything has energy. And gratitude, it's one of the fastest ways to create a high vibration for your business. So you'll see that we've incorporated that into the checklist as well. So some of you will look at it, well, what's that have to do with business? It has everything to do with business because you will not be able to grow a high performing sales business if you are constantly living and working within a low vibration. So you'll see how we've accounted for that throughout the program. So there are traps in this system. Some of the traps involve that first, it's super simple. And the problem with things that are simple in life is sometimes stuff is so easy to do that we simply don't do it. So things that are so easy to do are equally easy not to do. And sometimes because they're equally easy not to do, we simply don't do it. So this system is super simple, but you have to do it. Number two, distractions. Your success in this will come down to your ability to eliminate distractions, because what happens in real estate is that typically, and this is one of the reasons, by the way, we didn't like the 90-day success plan we were originally working on, is because you do all these things to generate business. So in 90 days, you do all these things to generate business, and then the business starts. You start have people calling you, and people want to list their house and buy a house. And then you work on all that business. And then 4 months later, you say, where did all my business go? I closed those transactions and there's nothing left. This business, this system depends on you eliminating distractions and doing your very simple checklists on a yearly, monthly, weekly basis and a per transaction basis. Another trap that is easy to fall into is perfection. So we're going to show you the checklist in a few minutes, but if you are a perfectionist, it's going to be super difficult to get stuff done to your detriment. So you have to let perfection go. Done is better than perfect. And over time, you can improve stuff. So I see this with real estate agents who struggle that, for example, they want a really beautiful listing presentation. And so they put their heart and soul into working on this beautiful listing presentation to the detriment of other things. Like they work on it so long and it's never quite perfect enough that they miss out on other areas that they could be building their business. So the idea here is nothing has to be perfect. You're going to work off these checklists. You can improve stuff as you go throughout the year. You can improve on your listing presentation. When you're doing videos for your social media, people are like, well, I need a professional video. Nothing has to be professional. Just improve in small increments over time. Excuses are another trap that some agents could fall into. And I always say, like, first of all, your success or your lack of success, it is 100% your fault. And for some, that's really hard to hear. They say, well, I don't have time. I don't have the resources. You have the same amount of time as every other real estate agent. You have the same amount of time as agents that are closing 150 transactions a year. You gotta, if you allow for excuses, then you're gonna have a hard time completing the system. Altering checklists is a trap. So I mentioned at the beginning of the program today that these checklists are based off of what high performing agents do that we know. So agents, we're human beings. We say, well, I can do this and I'll take this off the checklist and I'll add this instead. You can't do that. Or I should say, if you do that, it's no longer this algorithm. You're working then on a different algorithm and we don't know how many transactions you'll close. Control. That's another big one. Control is can be a trap, because as you grow your business, you will have to give up some control to other people that can assist you with scaling your business. And then the other trap is lack of follow-up. So we don't have a checklist. And we went back and forth on this, on a follow-up checklist for every prospect. Now, we have included in the system a 10-day follow-up campaign for new prospects. You have to do that. But if you're not regularly following up with your prospects and your customers, then you're going to have a hard time getting the system to work. So here's how the system works. There's 12 steps that you have to take once a year. There's 9 steps that you have to take monthly. And then there's 9 steps you must take weekly. So this is your starting point if you're an agent who has no business on the table right now. You got to work on your 12 yearly steps, your 9 monthly steps, and your 9 weekly steps. Then Once you start doing that, you're going to have additional checklists that you have to work off of. New listing checklist, new buyer checklist, a listing appointment checklist, client appreciation checklist. I won't go into all of them in a super amount of detail today. I just want to give you an overview of the system and how it works. First week of February, the system will be complete. We will launch it. We'll have classes around it, and you'll have this workbook. The workbook will end up being about 100 pages once it's 100% complete. Now, the cool thing that we've done with the checklist system is we've given you tracking sheets, process tracking sheets. And the reason these are so important, and we'll go through these in a second, is like you will color in a house every time you complete one of the items on the checklist. And the reason for that is because most times you might not complete every item on the checklist. So there's 9 items on most of the checklists, except for the yearly checklist that has 12 items. All the other checklists have 9 items. And we want you to use this process tracking so that you can start checking off what you've completed on each of the checklists. The reason this is important is because we know that for every 18 houses you color in here, for every 18 houses, every 18 checklist items that you complete, you should get 1 house sale in the next 12 months. Now, you're probably not going to complete 100% of every checklist, and we want you to track it so that if you're 6 months into the program and you're not getting business, you will be able to look at your process tracking sheet and see where the holes are. So you could say, well, I have been doing a lot of things, but for example, I don't do the gratitude each week. And maybe that's it. Maybe that's the one little piece that, although you're doing all these other things, you have not incorporated gratitude into your business, which means you might be working at a lower vibrational energy, which means you're not going to attract business like somebody who is taking steps to increase their energy. Or maybe you're doing all the things, but you're not actually getting in front of customers, which is part of a weekly checklist of meeting and getting in front of customers. So there's a process tracking sheet for each of the checklists that you have to do so that you can keep your score. And for every 18 houses that you color in, you should be getting 1 sale. Now that doesn't mean immediately, okay, I've colored in 18 and that means I'm due a sale now. No, it just means over time that on average, if you're doing those, every time you color in 9 of the houses, you should expect to have 1 sale. Now, the one other piece that we talk about within the program is the Algorand yearly action checklist. The most important checklist of them all is the upfront one, the very first one you do. And this is the one that you typically do at the beginning of the year. Again, it's super simple. None of the items on these checklists are like massive amounts of time or anything like that. They're very simple. But what we noticed is if an agent does not set themselves up for success in advance, then it's going to be harder for them to achieve the same results as an agent who has done all of these 12 items at the beginning of the year. So we'll look at each of the process checklists. So what we say is, let's just say that at the beginning of the year, of the 12 items you have to complete on the checklist for the yearly action checklist, you only complete 9 of the 12 items on that checklist. Well, that means you've only completed 75% of the upfront items needed to be successful for the year. So that means that instead of having to color in 18 houses on your process checklist, each checklist, to expect 1 sale, you will now need to color in 24 houses. That means you're going to have to work harder than an agent who actually did all the steps on the annual yearly checklist, because that agent who did the yearly action checklist 100%, success is going to come easier for them than it will for the person that did not do these items. So there's a little slight math calculation in there. And by the way, the whole idea of this system is to track process and not results. And what that means is sometimes it's easy to get discouraged in this business because it's not a business where you can color in 18 houses and then get a sale in your lap. It's, you got to do all these things, and then the sale might come 6 months from now. We want you to not focus on the results. The results will come. We want you to focus on the process. If you keep focusing on the process, and this is because this is what high performing real estate agents do. It's one thing that was like glaring when we sat with high performing real estate agents is they don't freak if they don't have a closing for a few months. They realize like, okay, I'm still doing all my stuff. I'm still doing my checklists on a regular basis. So I know that the business is going to come. So they don't worry about that. You can't substitute stuff on the checklist. Again, that means that it's a different algorithm. You can't partially complete checklists. If you partially complete an item on a checklist, you haven't completed that item for the checklist. You have to be working off a calendar. There's no way you'll be successful if you don't schedule out your stuff through a calendar. And then the second part here just goes through each of the checklists. So this is the yearly checklist. So yearly checklist is setting up your database, setting up your set it and forget it emails, getting a professional photo, having a professional bio and resume created. When we looked at our high performing agents, many real estate agents, even within our own company, but in the brokerage community at large, when you Google the agent, like there's no professional photo, you can't find a bio. The real estate brokerage that is listed is somewhere they worked 4 years ago and they haven't been there since. So that means that if you don't do this stuff up front, it just makes it harder. Even if you're doing all the other things right, it's going to make it harder for you to win a listing or to get a transaction. Sign up for online lead sources, create your trusted vendor partner list. And by the way, this is a 100-page booklet. We give you all the tools to do all of this. Google you, look at your online reputation. What does it look like? Make your buyer, seller, and investor packages once a year. Have them all done. Create your listing presentation. Schedule your client appreciation events. Review your expenses and schedule your vacations. Those are your 12 items. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 items for the start of each year. We then have our monthly checklist. So every month, this is the 9 items you have to do on a monthly basis. Super simple. Change out your social media pages so that you don't have old, outdated stuff on your social media. Send a mailer. Interview a business owner and write a blog post about them. Who referred your business over the last 30 days? Send out and thank referrals. Prune your database. Add 20 people to your database and your marketing campaigns. Schedule and plan your open houses. By the way, you don't have to have listings to get open houses. So we say here, no inventory, no problem. Create a marketing video for your peers articulating what you do to host a professional open house and offer to host one for them. Attend a real estate class. This is important. We're saying once a month, you should attend a class. Go learn something new. That's what high performing agents do. They find time to be at classes so that they can learn the next place that they're going to go focus on their business. Schedule a personal fun event. I told you all of our checklists, they also have a component of fun and vacation and personal care, because all of that plays into your success as a real estate agent. We then have your weekly checklists. So on a weekly basis, you have to do 3 social media posts on 3 platforms. Create and post a video. Do 5 stop bys. Go visit people and don't go empty-handed. Don't worry, we've created a whole book that explains all of this and gives you details and tells you how to do it and what to say and what to write and what to text people. We've created it all. Write your gratitude list. What's the 25 things you're grateful for? Text 10 past clients or champions. Don't worry, in the back of the book, we tell you what to say when you text people. Listen to 1 episode of a real estate podcast. Make 1 outside the comfort zone communication once a week. Somebody call an expired or a FSBO. Schedule your weekly gym or diet commitment. Schedule your weekly healthy soul commitment. Okay, so next up we have a listing appointment. So seller appointment, the 9 things you have to do for your seller appointment. These are just based on what is it high performing real estate agents do with each of their seller appointments. Then we have, what do you do when you get a new listing? This is really important because every listing is an audition for your next customer. So the listing in and of itself is marketing to get the next customer. And of course you want to sell the listing, but we make sure that you do so amazing on this listing with your 9-item checklist that you're going to win business from this listing. So for every 2 listings you get, if you do all 9 items on your listing, for every 2 listings you get, then you should get another listing. Because there's 9 items and color in 18 houses on your checklist, then that's another listing that you should be getting. And then buyer appointments. So once you have a buyer that you're working with, we created a 9-part checklist for working with your buyers. So these are the 9 things. So those are the checklists. This just goes into like, this is the yearly checklist where you figure out, did you do all 12 things to set yourself up for success? This is going to tell you how many houses you'll have to color in on your process tracking sheets in order to expect to close 1 sale. And then the following pages after that are the process checklists. So this is your weekly checklist. So you just type in or write in what day, what week it is, and then color in how many of the 9 items did you do in that week, and then tally them. Because for every 18, if you've set up yourself for success by completing the entire year, then you can expect to color in 18 of these. And for every 18 you color in, you can expect to get a sale within the year. So there's 4 of these, a year's worth of weekly checklists. And then we have all the other checklists as well. So, whoops, went backwards a little. So for each of the different types of checklists, you'll see the weekly checklist, the monthly checklist, and the transactional checklist, like new listing, new buyer, etc. And then at the end of the book, it's all support tools for mission accomplishment. So all the rest of this book is all the information you need to finish the checklist on each transaction or each week, each month, each year. So we start with like a list of minimum standards for building your real estate business. Out of minimum, there's certain things you must do. In addition to all the checklist items, like you got to show up to appointments, you have to follow up with people, you got to dress professionally. So we kind of lay out the minimums. Then we talk about database, because at the start of the year, there's a big focus, not only yearly, but also monthly, on building that database. So there's lots of information here about how to build the database. And we have 2 classes here on how, if you're using ISACT, how to create that database. We then say for the beginning of the year, if you Googled you, would you hire you? So when you leave here today, the 1 action step you should take is type in your name in Google with like real estate. So like Stacy Alcorn Real Estate, whatever your name is with real estate, and see what comes up. And those pages that come up in that first page, they should be accurate. They should be crisp. They should have a new photo. They should have a bio. They should have your correct company that you work for, because that's when people start judging you. The people that are hiring you, they're hiring you for your marketing prowess. And then they show up at a Google page. Somebody Googles you and there's like an old realtor.com profile with a company that you worked at 5 years ago and no bio, no photo. Would you hire you? Stuff to think about for social media, signing up for leads. We then have this 10-day lead follow-up campaign. So as you're building your business, you're going to get leads. Are you following up with them? You should be following up 10 times. So we give you everything to say by email, by phone, etc. So we create this 10-day campaign for you. And then one of the things you have to do on a weekly basis is text clients and people who send you business. Here's the text that you send. There's a lot. We do have a concentration throughout the program on keeping the vibration up, your energy and the vibrational energy of each transaction up. So we have a little section on words of wisdom. One of the parts of this program that is required weekly is stopping by 5 clients, going and visiting 5 clients or prospects or acquaintances, and bringing a small item of value. Here's all your ideas for your items of value. They should only be $1 each. Here's all different ideas with little phrases for you to put onto your cards. Next, you have to know how to talk about the market. So we have a whole section on here on how to discuss the current real estate market when somebody asks you about it. This goes to your vibrational energy. If you can't speak about in a positive, uplifting way about what's happening in the market, who is going to want to work with you? People want to work with people that make them feel good and give them good information. So here's all the talking points that you need to memorize about the market. Great real estate agents manage expectations. And this is for every aspect, from like a listing appointment to working with buyers. These couple of pages just talk about all the different ways that you have the ability to manage expectation. If you overpromise and underdeliver, you change the vibration, the energy vibration of the transaction, so that you're no longer in a positive energy state, which means it's harder to attract new business. So we then talk about staying in touch, like weekly seller updates, which will become more and more necessary, handling social media, what to include in social media, what to do videos about. We talk about on a regular basis interviewing business owners and writing a blog with those interviews. That's because business owners have big spheres of influence. They are super important to building your business because they're going to become a referral source. So we give you the step-by-step instructions to doing this, who to reach out to, what to say, how to interview them, how to write the article, where to put the article, things like that. Classes. So one of the checklist items that you'll see is you have to take classes regularly. Nothing crazy, but you should always be learning. And so these are some of the classes that we highly recommend you take. We have a whole section on here and using technology and which technologies you really need to take. Really dig into your technology. So many real estate agents have all this technology at their fingertips and they barely use it to their advantage. They use it to the minimum. But there's so many ways to like go take a class on something you've been using for a while. Maybe it's like .loop or app files. Go learn how to better use it for your business. Technology is like your personal assistant. It allows you to grow faster. We then did an entire several pages on how to do CMAs. This is an important part of your business, how to do CMAs. And that doesn't mean like going on to RPR and typing in an address and seeing what RPR says the property is worth. Great real estate agents do real CMAs. They're not just taking the word of an automated valuation system. Those AVM tools are like a backup that great agents compare to. So we created a whole system here, including if you click here, you can actually pull some nice comp worksheets. So you can do your own math on stuff. And then it tells you 10 steps to doing a CMA. So you can come up with the value of the property without depending on a computer to do the value of the property. And then common questions around the CMA, how to handle pricing objections, different ways to discuss pricing strategy with your seller, what to include in a listing presentation, very important. Also, one area that I think some agents forget is on a listing appointment is giving a marketing plan, like a written marketing plan of how you're going to market a property. High performing agents do include a marketing plan often. That's not always, but often you will see that. So we included that in here as well, including a sample marketing plan that you can customize and some ideas of what you might want to put into that marketing plan. And then the last section just talks about how to do a phenomenal open house for clients. So you'll see all kinds of checklists around phenomenal open houses. So that's basically it. This is not completely done. Oh, we have like a sample calendar that agents can use here as well. And we're already at the end of our program. So we're going to come out with that officially at the start of February. Our leadership council is going through it now. We're getting some feedback from them, seeing what areas we can improve upon a little bit. But we're going to deliver for our agents a one-of-a-kind program that has not been done in our industry, in my opinion. So we're super excited about it. And with that, we're at the end of the program. So what I would like to say, check out our upcoming training programs. You can go to laerrealty.com/training, as we have great training each week. And that's it. We will see you in February. Thank you to everybody who joined us for today's program. Thanks, everyone.